Worldwide Flavor Network is not responsible and does not verify for accuracy of the information contained or any live or recorded broadcast available for listening on the site. Join us Sundays from 6 a.m. until 10 a.m. for praise and worship at daybreak on the Worldwide Flavor Network. This show is being sponsored by Worldwide Flavor Network. If you are looking to have your own radio show, come and join us here on WWFN Online Radio. Contact us via our website, www.worldwideflavornetwork.com.
Good evening, and welcome to Positions on Sports Talk Show, host of the Worldwide Flavor Network, featuring Big Red
And JIII.
and friends. Tune in every Tuesday evening, 7 to 8 p.m. on the Worldwide Flavor Network, WWFN Online Radio.
Worldwide Flavor Network.
Good evening, and welcome to the Positional Sports Talk Show, host on the Worldwide Flavor Network, bringing you a sports talk show made for the fans, from the perspective of fans, presented by lifelong sports fans. We will provide our opinions and positions on the hottest topics in sports without hidden agendas or deference to any organization or team. My name is Big Reg, and I'm joined this evening by my partners in crime and brothers as well. JIII, how you doing this evening?
Doing outstanding. Happy New Year to everybody.
We also got in the house Brother Ed. What's going on, Ed? How you feeling this evening?
I'm feeling great.
Glad to hear. Back in the building, we got Professor J for number 4.
All right. What's up, good people? Blessings for 2020.
And special guest J Minnie is still with us, hanging out over her.
I'm trying, keeping up. How y'all doing today?
All right.
Glad to have you over your little college break. Appreciate you. Want to wish everybody out there a happy, safe, and peaceful New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. Please make sure you take care of yourself. Have fun, but do it responsibly. This evening, we will discuss the college football playoffs, NFL Week 17, and the coaching carousel that's going on right now, some otherwise known as Black Monday. We'll also hit some other topics in sports that caught our attention during the week, and of course, we got our final post of the evening. So sit back, relax, enjoy Post on the WWFN Online Radio. College football playoffs. We had one game that was amazing. It wasn't a game, but for what happened in the game was absolutely outrageous. And then in the night game, we actually had a real blow-for-blow heavyweight fight type of game. So let's start out with LSU against Oklahoma.
No contest. It was no contest. Come on, man. Be real about it. It was no contest. LSU came in there and whipped that tail. Plain and simple. What more is there to say?
JIII, were you surprised by the results?
Unfortunately, no. Not at all. I mean, I wanted Oklahoma to win, but yeah. Joe Burrow just took it to him.
I don't think he was talking about the win. How LSU beat Oklahoma. I was shocked.
Even though the Big 12 has a reputation of playing up and down, no defense.
They put up 49 points by halftime. I don't care who you would think about. You cannot predict that man with Joe Burrows was going to throw 7 touchdowns in the first half.
Here's what fascinates me about LSU and Joe Burrow. Just 1 year removed from a 29-0 defeat at the hands of Alabama at home, prime time, they've literally transformed themselves, both Joe Burrow and LSU's historically inept offense, in 1 year. Big Reg, what's going on?
Well, I actually read a story and then watched a video of Joe Burrows talking about this. When he was deciding to leave Ohio State, when he sat down with Ed Orgeron, Orgeron told him then, if you come here, I'm going to change the offense.
Makes all the difference in the world.
Sure does.
We're going to go to a wide open offense, but I can't do it the first year you come.
Okay.
So, come, work with me. In the second year, I'll put things in place to make sure that you can showcase your talents. Now, he never envisioned Joe Burrows going from transfer quarterback, starting in the SEC team, hoping that he might get drafted sometime, to Joe Burrows, Heisman Trophy winner, #1 pick, and then nobody saw that.
So what you're saying is they had
Adjusted.
a playbook specifically for Joe Burrows.
But I asked you that question, and I posed the question because it's almost unbelievable the things that this young man and this offense is doing when, you know, we've watched LSU for years, not just 2 years ago, not just 3 years ago. I'm talking about historically bad offenses year after year after year, eventually leading to coaches being fired over it, to where now it's like, can he be stopped? And it's not some like aberration, because he's doing it in the SEC. He did it against Georgia. He did it against Alabama. He did it against whoever was in front of him. He's put up numbers.
Yeah.
So, hats off, Auburn. You're right.
Professor
7
Jay,
touchdowns.
You look like
7
you got something
touchdowns.
you want to say.
I mean, it hurt my feelings because Jalen hurts, man. I mean, I was hoping that he had a Cinderella story that
Right.
he could pull off and shock the world. But that Oklahoma defense is just porous. I mean, they've had close game after close game when really, I mean, if you think about it, that one loss, Jalen probably saved the game for about 4 or 5 of their games this year.
Absolutely.
Because the defense gave up so much they couldn't stop anybody. So by halftime, I mean, really by the first quarter, I was like, I'm done with this game because this one man, he cannot bring this team back if they can't get any stops on defense.
But you've been
You
saying that all
can't turn
year.
them over.
You've been
You
saying that all
I
year.
mean, yeah.
But Professor J, if you really think about it, though, even Jalen's not complete. I mean, there is some blame that has to be placed on his feet too.
Right.
Even though the defense was doing 0, Jalen wasn't necessarily playing great, but his offensive line wasn't even giving him time to try to play great.
Right.
So,
True.
You know what I was waiting to see this whole year, and this is an indictment on Oklahoma's coaching staff.
Uh-oh.
They've had Heisman Trophy after Heisman Trophy winners back to back.
And
He
runner-up
was
this
supposed
year.
to, right? He was supposed to compete to be the third, but I didn't see that dynamic offense that he's had the last 2 years, and now he's supposed to be considered. Lincoln Riley, he's supposed to be considered for Dallas's head coaching job. I mean, I just
think
don't see it.
Getting beat like he did
Mm-hmm.
might be the thing that gets Lincoln Riley out of Oklahoma,
Mm-hmm.
because you can only do that so many times
Right.
before they stop saying, oh, you a hot candidate, and they just start saying, oh, you just a good offensive guy,
right.
Yeah.
not a head coach.
Yeah, then they move on. Right.
So I think Lincoln Riley might be going to the NFL now. Before, I thought there's no reason for him to leave. He's making almost $7 million a year at Oklahoma. He's the king. Why leave? But you can't keep running into a different SEC team and getting embarrassed.
Yeah, and they've tried to throw money at defensive coordinators to no avail. So, yeah.
It's recruiting. That is definitely a Johnny and Joe's problem. They don't recruit as hard on the defensive side as they do on the offensive side, because that's not what the coach is concerned about.
And that's
And it's
evident
obvious.
because their defense was terrible.
And in the Big 12, you don't have to, because nobody plays defense.
Right. Right.
In the nightcap, we actually got a real game.
Thank you.
Well, kind of, sort of.
Oh, it was a game.
It was a game.
It was a game. Clemson, got hats off to them. We didn't know if they could stand up in a big game and finally, show their mettle. But after trailing by 16 points early in the second quarter, some people may say it's controversial, but after a targeting hit and the guy lowered his head and hit him with the crown of his helmet, which is factual, and in a college football game, Anybody who does that gets kicked out the game. That turned the game around. And then you add in the fact that they went for a stupid block punt the following series and roughs the punter, which keeps a series on. That changed the whole momentum of that game.
Did it really turn the game around, or did Ohio State just give up the game? Because, I mean,
Nah,
after the second and third quarter, they were nowhere to be found. They turned it around towards the end of the third quarter.
No, they turned it around in the second quarter. They were only down by 2 points.
No, I'm not talking about Clemson. I'm talking about Ohio State. They let the game go.
Man, when they got off the field before that roughing the kicker penalty, their defense gave everything that they could to get the stop. Earn the stop.
Yeah.
And then that special teams play just ruined it, because if you saw what happened after that, Clemson just drove down the field.
Yeah.
They put the cameras on the defensive linemen and the D-backs following that one play. They were gassed. They were puffing and puffing, hands on the hip. So when that happened, I just immediately was like, that was stupid, because the defense did their job, and now they got punished for it by poor special teams.
And they were going to get the ball in good field position regardless of trying to, because they were punting from like their 19-yard line. So, what you got?
The game was a great game. It was two heavyweights.
Absolutely.
Given, slings going toe-to-toe. And I'm not even going to mention the refereeing, because it's unfair. Because at the end of the day, you cannot leave games in the hands of referees.
True.
And it is true that referees do influence games, especially when you have two high-level teams going at each other. Sometimes it's a play here, a play there, that ultimately decides a game.
Right.
But I will say this.
But you got to overcome that.
And Clemson overcame the adversity.
They stayed in their game.
And, I counted 4 times, it may be more, that Ohio State was in the red zone and came away with 3 points.
Yeah.
My daughter and I were watching that and said these field goals going to come back to haunt them.
So we can look at it and say, we had block punts, we had targeting penalty. I mean, we can say all that, and we can blame everything. But at the end of the day, Clemson got off the mat. They settled down, because if you think about it, Clemson really hasn't had any high-stakes games this year.
Right, so it took them time to get into the game.
It took them some time to adjust to the speed, to settle down. And Urban Meyer even admitted that after the game. I know Urban Meyer's not the coach, but he kind of is. Those are his players. He admitted, he said, he gave credit to Dabo and his staff. He said they knew they couldn't physically match up, which blew my mind. They couldn't physically match up and go head-to-head with Ohio State. So what they did, they said, okay, we're gonna do the screen game.
Slow it down.
We're gonna do the unexpected. Their quarterback running.
He became a dual threat quarterback and actually had the most rushes for Clemson.
Yes. And Dabo, like I said, say what you want about Dabo and his
The
staff.
middle was wide open.
Wide open.
That was
And
an
look,
excellent game plan.
And to Ed's point, because they couldn't match up mano-a-mano, that's when I said they about to get a heavy dose of Etienne. And what happened?
Yep.
He got that big run, game over.
But it wasn't a run. It was a pass, don't forget.
But he took that to the house.
Oh, yeah.
He took that to the
But
house.
one final thing as far as my observations of that game, out of all the players that was on that field, who I was most impressed with is the cornerback from Ohio State, Okuda.
Oh, yeah. He a dog.
I remember seeing those wide receivers for Clemson running up and down against Alabama last year in the championship game.
He wasn't having none of that.
I didn't see any of that. And that young man, that young man, Okuda, he was talking the talk. He was backing it up. He's physical. That was he impressed me the most. Out of all the players on that field that night, he impressed me the most.
He might look good in some burgundy and gold.
We'll get to that a little later. So that leaves us with a big matchup, LSU against Clemson. We got 2 weeks to get to that, so we're not going to go into that right now. But hats off to both teams. They did well, and they did their thing.
Yep.
Now, let's talk NFL. Now, I'm going to set the ground rules for us. We're going to talk about the games first. And then we're going to get to what's happening today.
Okay.
All right. Some of you may know, I went out, checked out the Baltimore Ravens final game, got to sit inside the bank. and see the Ravens do what they do. Thank you, baby girl. Appreciate you. And I was so impressed with what the Ravens did against the Steelers, who needed to win that game. And the Ravens ran the ball down the Steelers' throat with their second and third string players to set an NFL record for most rushing yards in a season by a team. They obliterated 44 for 223. Ouch.
Well, technically they weren't really. Technically
Ouch.
they weren't really their backups. I mean, they were their backups, but their running back was a starter last year. I gotta make excuses, fellas.
Come on,
I gotta make
come
some
on, Ed.
excuses.
Come
Why are we
on,
making
Ed.
excuses?
Congratulations, Ravens. You did it.
Jay, man, you look like you got something to
What
say
you got,
about
Jay?
that.
What's going on? You can't.
I
let
was a
me
little
hate.
nervous. I'm not gonna lie, I was a little nervous.
Yeah,
Like
she
the
texted
first,
me
probably
like-
the first 7 minutes of the game, I was like, this ain't gonna be a good game. This is not gonna be a good game. And then probably around the beginning of the third quarter, I was like, okay, all right, we got this.
That shows you the mentality that's running through that organization. We've talked about it all year. It's from top to bottom. They get on the field, they there to do what they do, and they're going to do it well. They're going to play hard. And then the defense, even with them sending some players, set a tone, and they did their thing. So hats off Ravens, finishing the year 14-2.
Good job.
Number one team in the NFL, and they continue to break records, doing it the old-fashioned way, running the ball, and that special man that we'll see in a couple of weeks.
Let's hope they take it to the Super Bowl.
Right. And the stat that got me, I could have picked a lot of teams that had that Russian title, but it was the 78 Patriots that they broke, record that they broke.
Did you?
I would have never guessed that.
The
Right.
top 5 teams in that list were all in the 70s.
That's crazy. Yeah.
That didn't surprise me.
So that shows you they back. What's old becomes new again, as they say. On the NFC side,
What a
in the
game.
Great
game of
What
the
a game.
day,
Great
What a
game.
game.
49ers
Deja vu,
and
though.
Seahawks.
Deja vu.
Yeah.
Can Pete Carroll and his coaching staff blow another important game?
You on the 1 yard line and you get a delay game?
But I've
Are
been-
you serious?
And they were in the huddle.
Are you
They weren't
serious?
even at the
Right,
line of
they weren't even
scrimmage.
at
They
the
were in the
line.
huddle when they got the delay.
Come on,
break.
man.
And I don't know who Russell was waving at when they caught the ball for the first down, but somebody wasn't even in the huddle in
Right.
the first place. I'm like, what are they doing?
I
They were
will-
trying to get Marshawn in.
I will always but I will always maintain that Pete Carroll is a college coach at heart. Pete Carroll is a great coach when he has the best players, but when it's a in game coaching decision, he crumbles. And we've seen it on the big stage in the Super Bowl when he tried to throw a pass
Outsmart,
on
right.
it. Right. That's what I'm saying. So I've seen this from Pete Carroll before. I'm not surprised, but
But
hey,
you gotta stop. They should be telling him when the clock is down or when you need to take a
But
timeout.
they didn't have
Right.
any more timeouts.
I know, because they wasted the
Yeah,
timeout.
he wasted
the timeout before they got
Right.
downfield.
That's Pete Carroll.
Right.
And with all of that, Russ throws a pass. The guy catches it, and he catches the ball on the wrong side of his body. If the ball is on the other side
All
of
they
his
had to do is stand the
body,
ball out.
that's
They
a touchdown.
had 8 shots
Yeah.
to get that touchdown.
Yeah.
8. And blew every last one of them.
But let's give 49ers some credit.
Oh yeah, we're not taking
You
nothing
know,
away from
That
that.
last tackle was textbook, the
Yep.
way he tackled that
Take
guy
them
and brought
legs
him
out.
straight
He
down.
punched him.
Because most players will get an extra half yard or
Yeah.
yard. And that's why a lot of teams throw it short, figuring the receiver will be able to get that extra yard. But, yeah.
But didn't they try to throw a slant in the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
Got picked off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You would think
Because you
Pete
didn't run
Carroll
the
would
ball.
learn. Yeah, you
He
think he would
doesn't,
learn.
Because you didn't run the ball.
And I'm telling you, they were running Marshawn into the game because they was trying to make up for that. They was going to let Marshawn run that ball from the 1 yard line and got the penalty, and then took him back out.
But they got stuck anyway, because as soon as Marshawn got on the field, they put 8 men in the box. They was waiting on him.
Yeah, but he had already jumped over the goal line once before. He was going to get that yard. Marshall was going to get, that might have been the last play. He was going to get that yard.
We'll never know because they
We'll
blew it.
never know because they blew it.
Blew it.
And
So-
that hurt who that nation right there. with
Oh, that hurt a
loss.
lot of people. The 49ers end up with the number 1 seed in the NFC with that win.
Yep.
But you know what?
New Orleans went from possible number 1 to number 3, and they got to play this weekend.
And Green Bay
And
snuck
Packers
that
are number 2.
I'm just glad the Packers didn't have the number 1 seed.
Snuck that
It doesn't
number
seem, it doesn't feel right.
Right.
But
I mean,
I'm sure we'll get to that in
It
a
doesn't
minute.
feel right to have 3 teams, 13 and 3. but
Right.
It is what it is. So going to those number 2 seeds, I'm a Ravens. Like her this year. They're doing their thing. But they got to be a little nervous. Because Kansas City Chiefs,
Yes.
that offense is getting healthy and getting real scary.
And they got a gift. They got a gift from the Miami Dolphins.
Sure did.
So now they're the number 2 seed.
Right.
Mahomes has an extra week to get some rest. Oh.
Should be a good
And
game.
Kansas City's defense,
It's stepping up.
nobody's talking about it.
Yep.
They've been balling for 5-6 weeks now. And yeah, and don't forget, that's the only team this year that the Ravens lost to that they weren't able to avenge. Kansas City.
What really impressed me was a few weeks ago, if you recall, when Patrick Mahomes was slinging touchdowns in a snowstorm.
Yeah, and having fun like
So
a little kid.
so yeah, the Ravens they have their things, they have everything in order, but if that young man gets to come down M&T, I don't
It's
know.
worth watching.
That is a dream matchup for
Yes.
the NFL to have Kansas City at the Ravens, AFC Championship at the bank, to see the 2 back-to-back MVPs, because Mr. Jackson's going to win the MVP.
Yeah,
It's
he-
just
no
a matter of
question.
when,
He should.
not if.
He
No,
should.
there's no should. It's
No
when,
question.
not if.
Okay.
Yeah.
No question.
This is
So-
NFL.
Chiefs did their thing. Chargers tried to give them a little something, but it wasn't nothing to worry about. And then the Chiefs started running the ball a little bit. Uh-oh. Yeah, they scary. They're scary. In the NFC, number 2, Packers. Detroit was beating
Man.
They're
them
so
for
gutless.
3 quarters.
They're so gutless.
Hey, they just had a quarterback,
Again,
man.
it's Detroit.
They could have sealed that.
Yeah.
3
That's a
quarters. They
quarterback.
beating the Packers for 3 quarters. Aaron Rodgers
And
looked
was
like
taking it to him.
just another joke for most of the game.
The thing, I feel kind of bad for Detroit. They've had some bad luck this year with their quarter. They haven't had a
How
quarterback.
many
Their
times we gonna
entire
say this?
history.
How many times we gonna say this?
I know, but I think Patricia finally had them rolling, and then Stafford got hurt, and they're down to practice squad quarterback. I mean, look, it is the NFL. It's the
Broke
NFL.
back Stafford.
Yeah.
At least he would have won that game.
I mean, I honestly said, "Oh, that game's over. There's no need for me to even pay attention to it." And then next thing you know, the Packers won the game.
Yep. I told my wife we was sitting there watching in the club level, and I was like, they're going to mess around and let Aaron get close. If Aaron get close, he's going to win the game.
That's
That's all
it.
they need.
That's it.
Talking about one of the most dominant games of the day,
Who that?
the Saints.
Who that?
That black and gold.
Hey, Drew Brees need to take a month off from now until he retired during the middle of the season,
Yeah,
because he looks like he's ready to go.
Right.
yeah.
He looks like. And then Alvin Kamara's
Feed
actually looking
him the
healthy.
ball.
But don't forget, yeah, and
Feed
he's been
him
out.
the ball.
Yeah,
He's
been
Kamara's
out
been
most
out
of the
too.
year.
Yeah. So you know he ready.
But to win your game, dominate, win 42-10, think you're going to be the number 1 seed and end up number 3,
Right.
that makes the road so much harder.
Man, they gonna punish the Vikings.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Well,
Oh, they
they
owe
owe
them.
them.
God.
Yeah, they owe them.
They gonna punish
You
them.
think Captain Kirk gonna take him to the promised land?
They
No.
They owe. They got one coming.
Yeah, not on this
Yeah, I
one.
think the Vikings got one coming
Oh, yeah.
too.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
But before, even though it was a blowout game, we have to give some credit to McCaffrey.
Yes,
I
was
mean,
gonna say.
that young man.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone
Still
thought
a
he was a
monster.
flash. You know, everyone
He's
had
a
their
monster.
doubts about him, and probably unfair because
Because of his color.
of
let's be
his
real.
color. I'm just keeping it honest.
Right.
Let's be
And
real.
the man, all the myths he blows up all the myths. He's fast. He's tough. He can run. He can catch.
He's a baller.
Actually, if you think about it, he's like a faster version of Le'Veon Bell.
He's a baller.
So
Yep, he
Without
on
a
that
doubt.
short list now.
Yeah.
He in the thousand club.
Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
Thousand. What are there? 3 people on the
Yeah.
list?
Who is it? Roger Craig?
Roger
Who
Craig, Marshall Falk,
Okay.
McCaffrey.
and McCaffrey.
else? Man, I was such a huge Roger Craig fan.
Monster, me too. Me
And
too.
if you think about McCaffrey had zero. I mean, he was it.
and he was the only.
He was it.
Every team was focusing on him, and he put up those numbers.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Third rushing
Good
in the
job.
NFL,
Good job.
plus 1,000 yards receiving. Monster. So we're gonna move on. Somebody brought it up early. What were the Patriots doing?
Am I reading this right?
Yes.
Am I reading this
Yeah,
right?
you reading it? Absolutely. They lost.
The
What?
Dolphins?
Yeah.
To the
The
Dolphins.
Dolphins.
To the
But
Dolphins.
see,
It's that Fitz magic, baby.
No.
He worked it.
he did his thing at the end, but it's Belichick facing his former coaches, and they know what he wants to do and how he's going to try to attack him. And Belichick's only 500 against his former assistants.
It's not a coincidence. Right.
And that hats off to Brian Flores, that man, for an organization that was definitely tanking, traded away almost all their stars in the beginning,
Minka.
brought in a quarterback that they gave away draft picks to, that they thought was going to be a future. He had to bench him, dust Ryan Fitzpatrick off,
Man, he got magic
and to end up 5-11.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Heck, that might be the second most impressive coaching job this year.
I think they've only had one really bad game, and that's against the Ravens. But if you really look at their whole season in its entirety, they actually competed. They didn't win a lot of games, but they competed.
They did.
I think they're just a couple players, and they have the draft capital. They have 3 number ones coming up. So
They got
And they would have had at least another game if Fitzpatrick had started that Skins game. I think they would have pulled that one out too.
Yeah.
But again, the Patriots, everything's on the line. Number 2 seed in the AFC, bye week, and you lose to the Dolphins
They better get it right because
At home.
they got the Titans on Saturday.
at home.
They're 12-4 is ugly. Though. I mean, I don't feel like the Patriots are 12-14. I think the Titans gonna get them.
But you know, but we go back to look at the conference. The division they play in every year. So they've been 12-4 many times.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
But
but
this year was different.
this year was
Buffalo's
different.
legit.
Yeah, they well,
Buffalo's legit.
yeah,
And the Dolphins just got them.
yeah.
And the Jets got some people that people didn't think they was going to get.
Well,
That's
I need
true.
them to
Maybe
get
in
got.
trouble.
I'm tired
Is
of seeing
the
them
era
make deep playoffs.
They in
Finally
trouble.
over.
That's what it
I
sounds
hope
like.
so.
He's
Probably.
42.
I hope
That's
so.
what it
Is
sounds
it
like.
over?
I hope so.
I think it's time. I think Buffalo is going to take over the AFC East, and the Jets will be right behind their heels. And I think the Patriots will get to see life without Tom Brady.
Probably not for another 1 or 2 seasons, though.
No. Brady's a free agent at the end of this year. And Brady's going to force them to either pay him like one of the top quarterbacks, or he's going to leave. They cannot franchise him.
And where you gonna go?
With
It's
the,
been a whole lot
with
of
the quarterback
teams.
play that I've seen this year,
A whole lot of teams will give him a chance.
yeah.
They better have offensive line.
Oh, he's gonna throw the ball on the ground anyway. You're not gonna hit
Yeah,
him.
you're going to
They
hit him.
better have offensive
He
line.
need to retire.
That's all I got to say.
The Eagles
Oh,
Yeah.
started
Yeah.
off slow.
They beat the Giants.
They beat the Cowboys.
Looked like they
And
was
the
going to
Redskins.
spit the bit, as they say, but got it going and end up doubling up the Giants 34-17 to win the NFC East.
That's right.
And the most satisfying part about that was watching Jerry Jones in his owner's box, not even paying attention
To his own game.
to his own game, watching TV and seeing the time
Classic.
clock down on the Eagles game and get
Classic.
disgusted.
That look at disgust was priceless. That's why I'm wearing this hat today.
But
Shout out, baby.
But
Even his grandson was disgusted.
Classic.
I guess it's hard to be disgusted with yourself. But
Ooh.
I guess
Oh,
we'll
yeah,
get to that in a
ego
minute.
definitely gonna get to that in a second.
Ego too loud. Yeah. Uh-huh.
So, with all of the starting receivers missing, Zach Ertz, who it's Carson Wentz's fault that the man's got fractured ribs and partially kidney that was hurt because he threw one of them balls and then Zach went and got it and he got blown up.
Yeah, and don't forget the week before that, when Collins hit him in the Skins game,
Right.
he did him the same way.
Right.
He had a concussion. He came back, but
Right.
you could clearly see he wasn't the same.
But they did what they had to do at 9-7, win the NFC least, and become the 15th different title winner in the NFC East. We haven't had a back-to-back winner since Andy Reid and Donovan McNabb won those
Shout out.
4 NFC East in a row. That's how long it's been.
That's pretty sad.
So, since we mentioned them, the Cowboys and Dak Prescott put on the show. For y'all not paying attention, Dak a little pissed off finally. They asked Dak, how he felt about the possibility of losing Jason Garrett, and Dak said, I ain't worried about Jason Garrett. My contract's up.
Show me the
I
money.
gotta worry about myself.
Show me the money.
I'm finally seeing this as a business, and this is my first time going through, so I'm trying to understand some things, but I got to worry about me. And it was obvious. Dak was worried about him. 23 for 33, 303 and 4 TDs, and that monster quarterback rush where he smushed the Redskins safety down to the ground.
He looked like he's back in Mississippi State.
Yeah, he was a backup.
That was hey, I don't care. He man was out there with a uniform on, and he got embarrassed on national TV.
Oh, he got a uniform on now, huh? Oh,
He got embarrassed.
Oh, yeah,
He got embarrassed. It's
He
a
don't even
difference
remember his
between.
name.
He won't be on the team next year after that.
He shouldn't have been on there now.
If they had more games to play, he would have been on the team come next week after that. That was embarrassing. But the Cowboys, 8-8.
Yep.
And that's about where they belong.
Yep.
Yeah,
Next.
agreed.
Next.
Tennessee Titans get a gift from the Texans.
Oh,
Come
gutless
on, man.
Texans.
The Texans sat half of their
Thank
team.
God. I was so disgusted with the Texans.
Right.
And that killed any chance that the Steelers had. I guess when the
Any.
Steelers saw that report and said, oh, they're going to sit down all their team. We can't win anyway, so we're going to let that go. But I got to give hats out to my man,
Yeah.
Big Henry.
Mr. Derrick Henry from Alabama.
You know he mad.
211. 3 touchdowns. Woo.
32 carries.
Wow.
Woo. He wanted that #1 rushing title, and he went and got it.
Well, Mike Vrabel, the head coach of the Tennessee Titans, he's smart. Munchak, who was the former coach, was not smart. They never ran Henry.
Nope, I like
This
to
is
see that.
really his first year. Really, last year he started a little bit, but it took till he didn't get running until mid.
Until the end of the year, right?
And this year he kind of got off to a slow start again, but finally, I guess Vrabel was like, "Wait a minute, he's bigger than every player on that other side of the field except maybe the nose guard.
Right.
Let this man run."
Exactly.
Yeah, good job.
Feed him the ball.
Tannehill, I swear,
Ryan
I'm
Tannehill.
impressed with him.
Ryan Tannehill done earned himself a contract.
Millions.
I'm thinking maybe a 3-year, somewhere 24 to 28 in that Kirk
Oh,
Cousins range.
He's definitely getting Kirk Cousins
Did you
money.
say something about Mariota? Mariota who?
Oh, he's
Huh?
gone. Yeah,
What?
yeah.
What? Who?
Mariota may want to
Yeah, I
look
wonder where he
at a
going.
possible job opening in Tampa Bay. Speaking about Tampa Bay,
Uh-oh.
Not Winston.
Uh-oh.
No.
in a meaningless game, the Falcons beat the Bucks, but the big news of the day was
Oh,
Jameis Winston,
Yeah.
the first in NFL history to go
Famous Jameis.
30 for 30.
Wow.
30 TDs,
And
30
30
interceptions
That's right.
in 1 year.
Wow.
Wow.
But the crazy thing about Jameis, that whole situation smells like a rat.
You think he got set up?
I think he got set up. And I was listening to his coach today.
on,
No.
Hey.
Follow
Oh
me for a
yeah, Bruce
minute.
Arians
Follow
ran
me
that
for a
truck
minute.
over him.
Arians was sitting at the podium this
Yeah.
afternoon talking about, well,
Man.
yeah, we can win with or without him.
Right.
And he led the league in passing,
Yep.
but he also led the league with 30 to 30. Has anyone ever thrown 30 interceptions?
Never.
No.
And he kept letting them throw. So at some
They
point,
had
I
no
know,
other choice.
but at some point, the coach has to say, "Hey, how can I best put this man in position to succeed?" And I just think he set him up for failure. That's just
He
my
clearly
opinion.
don't want him.
I could be wrong. Hopefully, I'm wrong because I want this is the year of the black quarterback. I want Jameis to do well.
But you gotta remember, Jameson he's on the field. He knows the plays.
Right.
He's the one throwing the ball.
And making terrible decisions.
Exactly.
Terrible.
Did you see
Exactly.
the last play of the game, first play of overtime? Jameis drops back. The first play of overtime and throws a pick six. Stands down to receive for the
Oh
whole
yeah, he broke that
time.
record too. Most pick sixes in a season, 7 of them.
He stared
Wow.
the receiver
Yeah, seven.
down the whole time. The DB just watched him and said, "Thank you. Game over."
I don't know about Jameis. I don't know.
Yeah, his coach went in on him, man. He don't want.
And he's not the only coach. Remember in the HBO special that they had at Tampa Bay,
Oh, hard
where
enough.
what was it? Derek Cutter, I think, was the original Hard Knocks.
Yes.
And he kept asking multiple times in different episodes, "Jameis, why did you make that decision? Jameis, you can't make that decision. Jameis." So it's not the coaches. They're telling him, "Look, if it's not there, throw it away." He just thinks he's Brett Favre.
So it's in his
And he
head.
gonna throw it in there. His arm is strong enough.
Yeah.
And then when you add on, because you heard what he said, "I'm a baller."
Yeah.
If you look at the stats, yeah, he led the league in interceptions, yards, attempts, yards per game.
Pick sixes.
He was second in TDs behind Lamar with 33 TDs and 6 in completions and yards per attempt. So if you knock that number down by half, Jameis is legit starting quarterback.
But see, Jameis has head issues.
And that's an
And
understatement.
I think to play that position, you have to be your life has to be together.
You're right about that.
And and obviously something's not clicking. Maybe he might need to see a sports psychologist or something.
Because his
He'll
decision
never
making
win
process.
you a big game. Yeah, because it's decision. He'll never
But he
win you a
won
big
big games in college.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
but they
difference.
had so much more talent than
Yeah.
everybody else.
Yeah.
And what conference did they play in?
ACC.
Okay, enough said.
Oh.
Enough said. And the last thing we're going to get on in this NFL before we start talking about Black Friday. Did you see the Cleveland Browns give it up against the,
Yeah.
at that time, 1-win Bengals?
Mm-hmm. Joe Mixon.
How you going to let the Bengals come in and do that to you
Cleveland.
and lose that
Who
game?
we need to say anymore? Cleveland.
Right.
Baker Mayfield, dude,
But
I don't care. He's going to go into his third offense, and he's only been in the league for 2 years. Getting ready to get his 4th head coach. Wow.
Yeah, he's
I mean,
a
but
head
at one
coach killer.
time the Browns beat us. So
Badly.
So
Go ahead.
I think in the NFL, I think in the NFL, because the talent is like everyone has talent in the NFL. Even if you draft bad, they're pros. They're there for a reason. And I think that at I know it's cliche-ish, but any given Sunday, a team can rise up and beat another team. So yeah, they beat the Ravens pretty good too, but that was just aberration. I mean, that any team can do that.
Also, remember, for those 2 games, that was coming off the Kansas City loss, where the Ravens tried to go mano-a-mano with Kansas City and prove that they could throw with Kansas City.
Yeah.
And then they backed it up playing the Browns. They didn't take the Browns serious, and they didn't run the ball. After that, the Ravens got back to Ravens football,
And it's been
and they haven't lost since. So
So they learn from their mistakes.
yeah.
Plus, with Cleveland, that's also a statement of the culture that they have there as well. You know, you had players yelling at opposite sidelines, talking about "come get me." You obviously had a head coach that was overwhelmed, should have never got the position in the first place. You have just mutiny, you know, in the key positions of a team. Like you say, there's talent all over that field, but yet for some reason it's not coming together. And it reminds me of some of the talented teams that Marvin Lewis had in Cincinnati. But there was always off the field issues, things going on, head cases on those teams, and they could never get the big games won, especially when they had the Steelers beat. And then who showed up? Vontez Burfict.
My
And who
man
showed up
Vontez.
after that? Pac-Man
Pac-Man
Jones.
Jones.
It's like they had the talent, and same thing with the Browns, but they just can't put it together. It's the culture.
Cool. So this weekend, we got Wild Card Weekend. You got 2 games Saturday, 2 games Sunday. Bills and Texans, 4:35 p.m. on Saturday, followed up by the Titans and Patriots at 8:15. Then Sunday, Vikings at the Saints at 1:05, and the Seahawks at the Eagles. Now, let's dip our toe, because I know some of y'all want to talk about this, about what's going on in the NFL and some of these teams clearing house.
Dark Monday.
So, I'm going to let Professor J start with, his team. The Redskins.
Joe to take it. All right, yeah, so we all know that the inevitable had to come down. Bruce Allen had to go. He's had
Finally.
10 years. He's got 100 losses. 100 losses in 10 years of work. And yeah, he should have been gone a long time ago. And speaking of culture, that's the shift that they needed right there. But it's a little bit too late, in my opinion. I think when Jay Gruden was fired, they also needed to get rid of Minuski, because he showed even at the end of the season, no matter who he puts on the field, his scheme just does not work.
Yep.
The culture there has been just demeaning and terrible for probably more than 10 years. But to have a breath of fresh air, you know, even if people going back and forth today, they don't think Rivera might be the greatest choice. But here's what I'm telling you. The culture is now able to change. You can bring in all new people and see what you have in this talented football team. Because y'all want to talk about talent. If you look at the defense alone, every position except the linebackers has talent there. If you look on the offense, look at our 3 rookie wide receivers who all show flashes of brilliance this year. And if you give Haskins a full season, and now you bring in a coach that really wants to work with him, somebody that worked with Cam Newton before, I think we got some promising things going.
It's going to fail.
Offensive line.
Tell us why.
First of all, Ron Rivera has not agreed to the contract. Now it's supposed to be a done deal by many reports. And if it hasn't happened, I got a feeling that it may not happen and they may be having some issues. Supposedly Rivera was only asking for control over the roster on game day, but I think he may have changed his mind or something's going on. So we're going to hold on that Rivera stuff, but they are changing.
Okay, but here's the issue. Here's the issue with the Redskins, and this is always going to be the issue as long as Mr. Snyder owns the team. The reason it's an issue, real quick, the reason it's an issue is because how are you going to put the cart before the horse? You don't hire a coach and then bring in a GM.
Right.
You have a GM first, because so that's telling you everything you need to know who's really running the franchise.
Yep.
Mr. Snyder is making the decisions who's going to be the coach. Therefore, it doesn't really matter who they bring in, because unless that key little component changes, I'm sorry, but the Redskins probably are not going to have the success that the fan base deserves.
What's souring me on it is that if they haven't picked the GM first, that's probably because Rivera is asking for more control, like you said. And if that's the recipe, I don't like it.
Or he's hoping to keep it in-house and maybe Rivera is bucking that.
Well,
And wants to bring in his own guy as his GM. Because that has happened. Coaches have come in and said, I will come, but I want this guy to be the GM. And then the coach has a little more power than what a normal coach would.
but it can work as far as a coach having that type of power, as far as that GM power, what you were mentioning, because it works in New England.
Yeah, but that's not the rule. That's the exception, not the rule.
That's true. That's true. So, but it can work.
It's very hard.
Yeah.
It's very hard. The New York Giants. I think they did half the job.
Yeah.
They decided to move on from Coach Pat Shermer, but they kept the GM Gettleman.
Now, here's a conspiracy theory. Could the holdup be that Gettleman wants to be reunited with Rivera, and maybe New York is in play?
Ooh.
Wow.
Yeah, because they worked together in Carolina
That
before
is
the ownership
interesting.
changed. Right.
That is really
Right.
interesting.
Ability.
So we'll see. But as long as Gettleman is running your organization, he's a Tom Coughlin disciple, and he walks it and talks it like Tom. That's not going to work with today's new age athletes. Not for long. Cleveland mercifully put Freddie Kitchens out of his misery. Mercifully.
Right.
But they
He
did
was-
let him fly back.
Yeah.
That was nice of
They
them.
let him fly back.
That was nice of them.
And
I
then
done gave
it's
him an Uber.
And they said, no, we not meet us over here. He didn't even get to go back into his office. Like,
Yeah,
no,
no. Come up
you
to
come,
the yeah.
you come over here with us.
That's funny. That's funny. And then the Jacksonville Jaguars, after letting Tom Coughlin go a week ago, are considering firing and moving on from their coach, Doug Marrone. And the stumper of the day, Jerry, what you doing, man? Fire the man, put him out of his misery, and move on. The Cowboys were supposed to make a decision, sent all the reporters home and said, we're not doing anything today. Come on, Cowboys. They got more respect for you than that. Jason Garrett looked like he was miserable the whole second half of the season. Let that man go on his way. Do what he wants to do if he wants to coach again, and move on, and let that talented roster get somebody who really can bring some energy to that.
Yeah, but Jerry Jones is a media hog, so he's not on anyone's time frame or schedule but his own.
Exactly.
And yeah, so
Exactly.
he's not tripping. He's like, let all these other things happen. I'll get to Jason next.
And I had to say, wow, last night. I didn't know that Garrett had been there for 10 years.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's
10
not
years
even
ago.
counting
Yes.
the time he was his offensive coordinator, and before that he was the backup quarterback.
Right.
Yeah.
Talk about mediocre.
All right, so we big footballers, heavy football show. Just one other thing that caught my eye over the weekend, and me and a couple of fellas was blowing up. That Showtime fight card on Saturday night was ridiculous. And hats off to Baltimore's own Javonte
Yeah.
Tank Davis.
Tank did it.
He put on the show. He banged with Urois Gamboa.
Sure did.
Won a 135-pound somewhat title. I'm not sure how legit that is, but it's all good. But he sets up a possible big mega fight in 2020 with Vasily Lomachenko, which is good. And that 12th round, he knocked that boy cold.
He went to work on
Yeah,
it. He went to work
he
on
sure
it.
did.
He was like, I'm going to show y'all I can fight.
I didn't realize he had that much power in that left hand.
Right.
Oh, he's ridiculous.
Oh, my
He's
goodness.
ridiculous. But Tank, next time, get in shape,
Exactly.
make weight,
Yeah.
so you can fight like you normally fight in the beginning. He had to conserve energy. That's why I went 12
At
rounds.
least
Yeah,
three
because they
rounds.
say
At
he
least
never
three
went
rounds.
past the 8th or 9th.
Right.
before. Yeah.
Yep. You could tell.
On the undercard in the co-main event, John Pascal got a controversial decision against Badu Jack.
Man.
And for my money,
Listen.
Badu won that fight.
Listen, that was
Yeah.
a round for
Yeah,
round,
me and Joe was
pound
going
for
back and
pound
forth on that
fight. They were going for it, left and right.
Yeah.
I think Pascal definitely got a wish list because he shouldn't have won that one.
Yeah, Jack won that fight.
Yeah, Jack definitely won that one.
Split decision. And when they said John Pascal and Steele, man, Badu Jack was like, they did me again.
Right.
He's been robbed at least 5 times
Yeah.
in fights he's won. And they gave somebody else the decision. So, hey, I guess they don't like you, bro. And then the opening bout, Lionel Thompson. Guys fought for the past 10 years at light heavyweight, comes down to super middleweight, which is the opposite of what people do at the end of his career, and gets an upset victory
Could not believe it.
over former title Jose Uzgadi.
Could not believe it. We watched that fight, and I was telling Professor J, there's no way he gonna win this.
Right.
There's no way. And then they go decision.
He started, but in the middle of the round, the middle of that fight, he started banging
Nah.
Jose. I thought he won.
Okay.
You didn't think he won, Jay?
Man, I thought Thompson was in command of that whole fight.
Thank you.
Man. I mean, the way he was, to me, it was a dominant performance. Yeah, Jose got a couple of shots in. I would give him 2 rounds at the most, but yeah, I felt Thompson.
Yeah,
got
Thompson
robbed.
won that fight easy. Easy.
You say
I
so?
don't know what you was watching. Thompson
I was
dominated
watching the
that
fight. Y'all was watching the game. I was watching the fight.
No, I watched it on, I DVR'd it and watched it without interruptions so I could really pay attention.
Okay.
So that brings us to the end of the show and time for our final post. So what you got for me, Jay?
I'm looking forward to some good football again this weekend. Everybody, please be safe for the holiday. A happy New Year once again.
Big Ed?
I just hope next year, moving forward, we didn't really get involved in this. I try to stay away from the controversy, but I hope next year, moving forward, both in the NFL and college ranks, they do something about these officials and the officiating going on. And that's how I'm gonna leave it. I'm gonna leave it alone. I wish everybody a happy New Year.
Agreed.
Professor Jay.
Yeah, y'all know me. I gotta, be a little inspirational in thinking about the folks down in LSU. Offensive coach Steve Ensminger losing his daughter-in-law Carly McCord in that plane crash while they were on their actual way
To the
game.
Prayers go out.
Our prayers go out to he and his entire family. I can't imagine how they're feeling right now. But I think that LSU will take that emotional ride and probably take it all the way to a national title and dedicate it to he and his family.
Good stuff, good stuff. Jay Minnie.
Safe travels over the holiday, and yeah, that's it.
Cool,
We have much
cool,
to say.
cool. Jay Minnie, it's been a pleasure having you
luck
in
for
here,
next semester.
joining us. Good luck going back to school, do your thing.
Absolutely.
I'd just like to wish everybody a happy, healthy, prosperous
Yes.
New Year.
Same to you.
Figure out what you want to do, how you want to do it, and where you want to be. Put your energy and efforts towards that, and good things will happen. It may not happen on your time schedule, but it will happen. We thank you for listening. We appreciate your time and opportunity to share our positions on sports with you. Please tune in next Tuesday at 7 p.m. for our next show, or you can download us via Mixcloud, Facebook, and YouTube. And please follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Positions on Sports, and like us as well. Tell all your friends and family. Have a great weekend. Have a wonderful new year. This has been Position on Sports Talk Show on the Worldwide Flavor Network. Please stay tuned for Overtime featuring Miss Calabury up next. Peace.
See ya.